Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Underdog episode. Today, we got ourselves Season 3, Episode 8, Revenant. This takes place a day after Paparazzi, so let's get right into it. There's a large crowd standing around waiting for something. They're at a wide stage indoors with purple drapes hanging from the ceiling. Some of the light projectors shoot out red beams of fuzzy light. The ground opens and a platform begins to rise. But all that's there is a man standing above a limp body with something dripping off his blade he is holding. Screams fill the room as the people run to the exit. The man goes to the edge of the platform and jumps off, landing on the stage. He shakes his leg a bit before walking off screen. The camera zooms up to the body on the lift, and carved into his body it says, "For you, you." The title card plays, and it cuts to a spray paint can spraying onto something with blue paint. Then somebody screwing a belt together. Then somebody using a switchblade cutting fabric out of a sheet of blue fabric. Someone is putting the belt on around their waist with the blue suit on. It zooms out to be Jake in a rustic-looking blue suit with a brown belt on. The other four members looking at him. Looks like a ripoff of mine. Alice steps back and heads to some cabinets.
Really? Is that the nicest thing you can say?
Alice opened one of the cabinets and pulls out a set of pictures paperclipped together. "Just saying, something about your suit." Alice hands Jake the pictures. "Looks oddly familiar." Alice walks away coughing. Jake is rolling his eyes while looking at the pictures. While the team starts bantering again, Dylan looks back at Alice, who is still coughing. Dylan leans off the table he was on and steps towards Alice, going to his side. Alice looks up at Dylan. "How you holding up?" "I know you know the answer to that." Dylan sighs and droops his head down. "Most of me wishes I didn't." Dylan looks back up at Alice. But right as he's about to say something, Jake throws his arm over Dylan and Alice's shoulders.
Sorry, but, we rolling out?
Dylan and Alice look back at him. "For what?" Jake eases off of them.
You know, that concert?
"That one rock band?"
Some crazy shit happened there.
Dylan walks to Jake, squinting his eyes. "What happened?"
The singer, he, got killed.
Dylan's eyes widen. "Brutal." Dylan and Jake start to walk to the front door with Alice trailing. Jake exits the door and Dylan is about to as well, but stops and turns around. "You should stay." Alice stops, not running into Dylan. He scoffs and looks at the ground. "Whatever, just keep us so the only one dying is me." Dylan turns back around. "That's not funny." Dylan shuts the door behind him and Alice steps backward, smirking. It cuts outside where it's pouring rain, and Jake is walking to the passenger side of the team van. Dylan walks to the driver's side and leans on the window. "See you there?" Miranda's in the front seat and looks up at Dylan, nodding. Miranda rolls up the window and Dylan backs off. "Zara!" Zara jogs at the warehouse. Yeah, I'm coming." Zara throws around her new sleek black blazer. Look at you." "Yeah, well, look at you." Dirty suit is fashionable now?" "Noted." Zara smiles and shakes her head. "All right, let's go." It cuts to police standing around at the crime scene with tape enclosing the area. In the background, the door flies open as the team pours in with Dylan leading them. One of the cops turns it to the team and walks towards him. "Hey." Dylan nods and the cop returns it. "So what happened here?" The cop sighs and glances behind him at the scene before looking back at Dylan. Apparently, the lift on the stage opened and the singer was on deceased. Dylan looks behind the cop at everything. "What? Who killed him?" "We don't know. Security couldn't get it to him from the cameras." "Is there anything we could follow?" "There might be something of interest." It cuts inside the police tape with the cop kneeling down, pointing at something. "See the hole in the body? Its shape, so strange, unlike anything I've seen." Dylan gets closer, examining the body, his face dropping behind his mask. "Look familiar?" No, just gross." "Yeah, tell me about it." The cop gets up and turns around, putting his hands on his hips. "I wish you luck." Return to sender. Dylan turns around and starts to walk the other way with the team.
Anything?
The ridges in his body. They look identical. Dylan starts to think to himself.
To what?
Those blades.
But you didn't kill him.
I couldn't find him in the warehouse. Seems like the owner found his belongings.
But you said he got thrown into space.
We face someone whose body was just bones. Nothing's out of the question anymore. They walk out of the concert hall back into the rain.
Where the hell would he even be?
We have to wait. He'll get impatient, do something stupid. Jake nods and it cuts to Alice in the warehouse. He's sitting down looking at the ceiling. He groans and sits up, walking to the front door. He reaches for the handle, but doesn't twist it. He turns around and looks at the warehouse before he steps back and scans the building. And it cuts to Atlas hanging up orange festive lights along the top part of the wall and stringing more around the door and on the roll-up doors. He then goes around setting up fake candles on tables and cabinets. Then he finally gets a Christmas tree hauling it on his shoulder. It cuts to him in the front with his hands on his hips admiring his work. He turns around hearing a car door shut. Knowing the team is back, he gets ready for them to see the lights and the new look in the warehouse. The door handle starts to jiggle and it slides open with the team walking in. One by one they enter and notice the illuminated room. Holy shit! Alice steps in front of him. You do this? Alice turns around. You see someone else around here? Alice smirks at Dylan, who smiles back and playfully punches Alice on the shoulder. So, what happened at the concert hall? You know, just some murder stuff. Miranda walks up to Alice, talking a little quieter to him. Talk to him. There's something bugging him. Alice nods as Miranda walks off with Jake. Alice turns to see Dylan taking off his Underdog suit. He walks up to Dylan and waits for him to take off the rest of the suit. Hey, you alright? Yeah, why do you ask? Dylan tosses his mask onto a nearby chair. You usually tell me more about what goes on. Dylan folds his suit and sets it down on top of the mask. He looks around for the other team members before stepping up to Alice, his voice as though it was a whisper. It's a wanderer. Alice just looks at Dylan speechless. How is he alive? Dylan shakes his head, running his hand through his hair. We're stronger now. We beat him before, we can beat him now. His bloodlust scares me. He's a maniac. You think he's too far gone? Probably been that way for years. Dylan turns around and starts walking to the bathroom in the warehouse. Alice turns around, seeing Miranda watching in on Dylan and Alice's conversation from a couch outside. Alice walks to the front door opening, ending the scene. Sneakers are moving along the ground with Christmas music playing in the background. The camera moves up to show it's Miranda carrying a stack of 3 see-through boxes. She sets them down on a white fold-out table and opens each one containing decorated cookies. She turns around and sees Dylan walking toward her in a black jacket and sweatpants. Hey. Dylan stops in front of her. Hey. Miranda leans on the table behind her. Thought I'd get out of the apartment. What better place than a bake sale? Didn't come for the sale. I'm just gonna stop you right there. Miranda waves her hand in the air as she says that, and Dylan laughs. Dylan goes next to Miranda and picks up a cookie, inspecting it. Sugar cookies. Miranda turns to him and smacks his hand lightly. Put that down. Unless you're buying. Dylan slowly returns the cookie back into the box. I'm still kind of mesmerized at what Atlas did to the warehouse. Yeah. Better than anything I could have done. Dylan smiles and nods his head, making Miranda roll her eyes. You give me anything for Christmas? Yeah, 'cause I would tell you. That's just an excuse since you got me nothing. Miranda smiles and shrugs. Dylan leans off the table. Well, there's something I needed to do, so, good luck with the selling. Good luck to you with the something. Dylan sighs and walks away. It cuts to Lotus sitting limp in the same place he was with the notch on his head still open. A beeping sound plays before a LED blue ring starts to spin on his head. Then a higher pitched sound plays and they wake up. Lotus looks around and notices the notch is open on their head. Stupid crystal. Lotus reaches for a chip on the desk in front of them, and puts it gently back in their head, closing the notch. Lotus stands up and opens the door, walking into the main room. Lotus stops, seeing the melted crystal oozing on the floor. They step toward it, kneeling down and touching it, rubbing between their fingers. Well, that's a shame. Lotus stands up and steps over the stream of crystal. They walk to the main entrance to see the door slit ajar. They run their finger along the edge of the door and look down the hallway leading into the lair. It cuts to Jake alone, typing on the main console in the warehouse. It shows he's trying to find anything related to Wanderer's whereabouts. After typing for a while, he gives up and slouches back in his chair. A familiar blade is positioned in front of his neck. Looking for me? Jake sighs.
How are you alive?
I ask the questions. Wanderer looks around the warehouse. Nice place. Where's Dylan?
I don't know.
Wanderer smiles and brings the blade closer a bit. Jake, right? You're a nice guy, at least from how I remember it. Jake squints his eyes.
What?
You guys have comms yet? Call him up.
We don't have comms.
Sure.
What is it that you want with him?
My path is miserable. Wouldn't wish it on anyone.
What?
Wanderer tilts a blade up to the bottom of Jake's jaw. Where does he live? Jake is tilting his head back.
An apartment.
Damn, I hated those apartments. Wanderer pulls the blade away and heads to the door. Wanderer stops and glances back. Because I have. He starts walking again, exiting the warehouse, leaving Jake flabbergasted. Jake walks to the console again, typing panically. But before he can get anything off, one of the blades fly in, breaking the wall, but stopping right before it reaches Jake's face. He stops typing and just stares at the blade, heavy breathing, before it tracks back outside. It cuts outside with Wanderer trekking through the streets and fields. Dylan's apartment in his gaze. He gets in front of the entrance of the apartment building, kicking it open. He pulls the blades off the holster on his back and starts climbing the stairs. Dylan is sitting in his apartment with headphones on, listening to music. He's bobbing his head and doing a word search. Oblivious, Dylan sits there as Wanderer breaks into Dylan's apartment and starts towards him. Wanderer grabs Dylan by the neck and throws him out of the window. Dylan slides onto the busy street with the glass cutting his back. He groans, getting up with cars honking and swerving around him. Wanderer steps through the broken window, jumping onto the sidewalk. Dylan reaches into his pocket, pulling out the necklace with the pink gem. He grasps the gem and shakes it lightly, making it glow and release the suit around him. The people's faces in the car get shocked. Wanderer is in front of Dylan now and swings, but Dylan dodges it and sends a punch back at Wanderer's chest. Not reacting, Wanderer headbutts Dylan into the patch of grass behind him, getting dirt onto his back. Wanderer steps over the fence separating the street and the grass. Hey, Wanderer. Wanderer's sidearm throws the blade in his right hand. Dylan stops it with his gravitational manipulation, but the force is strong enough to slowly push him back. Dylan turns the blade around and grips the handle. Clever. Wanderer chucks the other blade, but Dylan ducks under it. He turns around to see the blade's path, giving Wanderer a cheap shot on Dylan's head, making him lose consciousness for a moment before gaining it back, but not in time for Wanderer to choke slam him into the ground. What is your problem? Wanderer looks up at the blade returning to him. He catches it and sends the blade part into Dylan's neck, but Dylan stops it, holding the dull part of the blade, forcing it towards Wanderer. Let this happen. How are you alive? What is it with you people asking so many questions? Just answer before I kill your ass. Dylan, I am you. Dylan takes this opportunity to punch Wanderer in the face and push him off of his body. Dylan stands up, tightens his grip on the blade, and begins to drive it into Wanderer's skull. But of course, something stops him. A white tentacle belonging to Lotus grabs the blade and snatches it from Dylan's hand. Dylan curses under his breath. Dylan. Lotus tosses the blade between their two hands. Wanderer gets up and is standing by Lotus. Wanderer puts his hand out, asking for the other blade from Lotus, and Lotus returns it back to him. So now, where were we? Wanderer brings his arms up and throws both blades, but a purple portal teleports him away, and the camera pans to Zara holding her wand out, with purple sparks flying around it. Dylan turns and sees her, a smile creeping through his mask. Then a hand goes in Dylan's shoulder. He turns and is about to throw a punch before Alan grabs his fist. Relax. Dylan lowers his fist and brings it to his side. He turns to Zara, but all he sees is the final glimpse of one of the portals closing. Lotus is still standing off to the side, but Wanderer's gone. Where did he go? Dylan looks at Lotus, asking them. You're silent. Followed her. Dylan turns to Alan. How are we supposed to follow her? We have bigger problems. They both turn back to Lotus, who is standing there idle, his tentacles still missing the one cut off. Dylan opens his palm and puts it off to the side, throwing his medium-sized rock at Lotus's head. Dylan steps towards the sun Lotus before stopping and seeing cop cars speeding towards them. They can't handle him. Dylan grips Lotus's head whole and blasts off into the air, holding them. Dylan soars through the air, taking Lotus somewhere with Alan following on the ground with his super speed. Dylan stops and sees a place in the distance. Alan abruptly stops on the ground as well. In the distance, Dylan is eyeing a frozen over lake far enough away from the city. Dylan holds out Lotus and drops him, making him plummet towards the lake. But before they crash through the slick top, their tentacles extract, softening their fall, only slightly cracking the ice. Shortly after, Dylan lands onto the dirt to the side of it, with Alan flashing next to him. As Lotus is about to recollect his thoughts, Alan speeds at Lotus and tackles him, sliding across the ice. Alan! Dylan goes running towards them. Alan is repeatedly punching Lotus's robotic head. Lotus grabs Alan's hand and starts to pry his arms apart, but they do and roll on top of Alan. They punch a hole into the ice and start it to Alan. Under the ice, and start to drown Alan. Under the ice, Alan is resisting as hard as he can, but Lotus's grip is too tight. Eventually, though, something pulls Lotus off of him. Alan immediately pulls his head out, sloshing water everywhere, gasping for breath and coughing out the straggling water. In the background, Dylan and Lotus are wrestling, crackling the ice more. Alan shakes his head one last time, getting up and turning to the two fighting. He reaches out and grabs Lotus by the shoulder, pulling him off Dylan, uppercutting him. Lotus gets shifted back slightly before turning his humanoid hand into a sharp-pointed mechanical claw, piercing it through Dylan's shoulder. Dylan screams in agony as Alan elbows them in the head and kicks him in the chest, knocking them onto the ground, while Dylan is clutching his shoulder, trying to maintain the overwhelming flow of blood. Alan walks over Lotus, positions the foot over their chest, and slams it down, sending Lotus under the ice, drifting slowly to the bottom of the frozen lake. Alan's foot lingers over the spot before pulling it back and turning to Dylan, who is still applying pressure. Come on, let's get back. Alan grabs Dylan's healthy shoulder and speeds off with his grip. Back at the warehouse, Jake, Alice, and Miranda are sitting around the main console, before the main door flies open with Alan still gripping Dylan's healthy shoulder, with Dylan limping inside. Is there a medical bed I can lay him on? The all three stand up hastily, Miranda and Atlas rushing to Dylan, with Jake running to a medical bed on wheels, pulling it closer to where Alan and Dylan are. Alan then lays Dylan on the table as everyone surrounds him. So, what happened? Lotus. He's at the bottom of a damn lake now. Alice looks up at Alan with approval. The four slide the bed into a corner closer to the medical supplies. As they see the wound, they start to discuss what they need, pulling out everything of importance. As they start to work on healing Dylan, a bright purple light fills the room and one of Zara's portals appears. Everyone glances in the direction of it, seeing Zara walk out, a chain wrapped around her hand, connecting to something still hidden by the portal. Her blazer is dirty and tattered. Her hair a mess, and the cuffs of her white striped shirt, usually rolled up, is stretched down.
You okay?
The hell happened to you? As she walks further out, the train drags across the floor, pulling something still hidden. Zara stops in front of the bed. He okay? He will be.
Zara, what happened?
Zara looks at Jake, yanking her arm forward, making whatever's on the chain come out of the portal. Zara closes the portal. He's dead. The camera pans to a dead wanderer sprawled out on the floor. Bury his ass. A reminder that he's dead every single day. Zara slides the chain off her hand, rotating her wrist as she heads for that front door. The four at the bed look at each other and the body on the ground. It cuts to black, and the credits play.